Hey, it's James, Father's Rights and Resources, hashtag how I got custody. I had somebody in the comments ask if I've ever done a video on due process rights of parents. That's more of a question where um, there's not necessarily, here's the due process rights of parents, and it's laid out like in a criminal case, you got a right to an attorney, a right to a jury of your peers, and a fair trial in a timely manner, and all that stuff. But this is one of those things where you kind of have to know several other legal principles to have the overview of due process. So, if you're in family court, there's a lot of things that have to do with due process. And I've talked about each one of these things separate individually, but I didn't, I kind of said you have a due process right to this or that. But if you're talking about all the due process rights, there's a bunch of them. You have a due process right under the fundamental fairness doctrine to have two things: the right to be notified of a proceeding against you and the right to be fully heard. And part of that right has to do with, if you have a right to be fully heard, you're being fully heard when you prepare for a hearing and you present all your evidence and basically have enough time to be fully heard. This is where it's good for you to learn how to look up case law. And it's not necessary. If you know the basic fundamental laws, you can argue the laws. But when you have case law elaborates on the laws or elaborates on things like what I'm talking about. But you can't go into court and say, hey, this guy named James on this video said I have a due process right to be notified of a hearing and to have enough time to be heard on. You got to go look up case law in your own state yourself. And if you don't know how to do that, I have a video where I talk about case law. This is when, if you have a topic that you're trying to think of and you can't find a video of mine on it, if you're not going to get a consult with me, you have to go to my YouTube channel and then go above the main video where there's a magnum, there's my opening video on my YouTube channel. Like, here's all the videos down below. Let's pretend this screen is my YouTube channel. You'll see the big long panel, picture of me and my daughter. Then there's the main video, and then it'll has playlists for your page, latest uploads, most popular uploads, corrupt attorneys, free info, and another one's motivation for dads, where I have tough talks and light a fire under dad's butt. But if you go in there and you were to type in due process, you may not see anything. I'm not sure if I have a title due process, but some of these things like fundamental fairness doctrine, I think I have a video on that. Then, of course, there's the Troxel versus Granville case. It says that you have a constitutional right to the custody and care of your children without government interference. So if the government comes in, like I just had a guy who talked about a guardian ad litem recommended that the father can't do, I can't even remember what it was. There's something that he can't do on his time. Like he can't do this with the kids or discipline them, or can't take their, I can't even remember what it was. But, the government can't come in and say, oh, in case your boy wants to be a girl, or the government comes in and says, your kid was playing around with girls' clothes, so he must want to be a girl, so you need to change his gender. That's the government coming in and telling you what to do with your kid, or you need to raise your kid Catholic, or you need to have your kid go into the private school. All the court can do is divide up your responsibilities as far as time and who gets to make decisions. They can't come in and tell you how to raise your kid. And if you read case law and learn it for yourself, you don't need to say, James, what about this? What right do I have here? What right do I have here? There. What right do I have there? Go read your rights yourself. And then you might need some elaboration on it. So that's in my videos. But if you don't understand something, get a consult with me. I don't understand how this is such a hard concept unless you're a tightwad and you don't want to pay for actual help or services or whatever. And this isn't a response to the guy who asked the question. He asked a legitimate question. Well, there's so many people, you want to milk me for free information. And if you want to actually learn and understand something, Now, if you want a quickie answer, then get the frick out of your court case because there is no quickie answer to this stuff. You need to understand your rights. You need to understand the best interest of the child. You need to know and understand and absorb this stuff. If you want a quickie fast food drive-through, quickie, push button, easy access, microwave fast answer, get the frick out of family court because you're not cut out for this. You need to dive into this stuff and learn how to fight for your kids or kid and understand stuff. Just like if you're going to be a quarterback on the football field, you need to know the playbook and you need to know what other people are supposed to be doing and reads on the defense and stuff like. You can't just go in there and say, okay, I just say hut 1, hut 2, hut 3, hike, and I just throw the ball downfield. You need to know specific stuff and reads and options and things that will change depending on what the defense does. You have to know and absorb and understand what you're doing in order to be able to do that, just like with your job. If you're a teacher, you need to understand let's say you're a math teacher, you need to understand a whole bunch of math principles. You can't just know what the answer is. 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus, 6 is 10 or whatever. And then a couple of the answers, but you don't understand the basics of how math works. You need to understand how your rights work and how this court system works. You don't need to just get, what's the quickie answer here? Okay. That's when it's going through one ear and out the other and you're not absorbing and understanding it. So, Troxel versus Granville, you have a right to autonomy in raising your kids, and the government can't interfere with it. There's case law where the government can't interfere with your rights at all, terminate your rights, take away some rights, unless they have a compelling interest. So there's that. That's a due process right. And then in general, you have a right to, here's a domino effect, right? The rules of evidence, like hearsay, personal knowledge, expert testimony, the exceptions to the hearsay rule, authentication of evidence. If you don't know the rules of evidence, you need to get my rules of evidence video in my store. Either go read the rules of evidence in your state, like if you're in Georgia rules of evidence, California code of evidence. I was just looking at it the other day. It's like in the 1200s, the code of evidence, if I'm right. Oh, wait. They go from like 300 to 1200 or something. Anyway, California code of evidence. This stuff is kind of complicated. So go in and read and memorize that stuff. If you can't figure it out, you need to get my rule of evidence video. It's even cheaper than if you got a consult with me and you could watch the video over and over and over again. If you don't know the rules of evidence, you're missing out on a basic fundamental thing. And 99% of you are. So then you come talk to me after you get royally screwed in court. And then I say, well, if the mother is testifying to your state of mind, or she diagnosed you with bipolar disorder, or she said you have a drug problem, that's not admissible under the rules of evidence. Didn't you know that? Did your attorney object? No. So you don't even know the basics, fundamentals, and then you're calling me afterward. Learn how to do this stuff beforehand. So with the rules of evidence, it's crazy that I have to tell you guys this. You're in court. You don't know anything about court. You should learn about court. I won in court over and over. Why don't you have me teach you? I could do consults. Yet people will send me a DM. Please tell me how to do trial. Please tell me this. Please tell me that. Like you're either freaking retarded or you're a lazy bum or you're trying to steal free information from me. In any of those three scenarios, you're an idiot. Don't bother with me with that stuff. You don't give a shit about your case. You don't care about spending a few $20 bills. You'd rather pay money to an attorney. This is the recurring theme. This is what's wrong with my gender. You want to spend $5, $10, $20, $100,000 on attorneys instead of spending a couple consults with me to learn everything that you need to know. It's so freaking backwards. It's insane. Why don't you want to wake the hell up and smell the coffee and realize I won in court over and over. I did what works. I stumbled across what works, and I did what works, and I proved to you what works with my winning orders. And then I got countless testimonies in the comments and stuff. Why don't you get help directly from me? It's crazy that I even have to explain that to people. Like if you see somebody who is really good at what you're trying to do and you don't know how to do it, and they're cheaper than anybody else, and they know more than anybody else, why wouldn't you talk to them? Because my gender's freaking retarded. And we turn total numbnuts dumbass as soon as we're fighting our baby's mom because it hurts our little butt hurt feelings and our little gonads are shrunken and we're all scared. The rules of evidence, when they are violated, then that makes for an unfair hearing. When you have an unfair hearing, you have a due process violation. And when you have a due process violation, the hearing is void. So you should vacate any ruling where they violate the rules of evidence. So those are some due process stuff. If you